Hey everybody, hello and welcome to our channel. I am Leslie Zavarella and today we are going to take a look at what's new in Angular 8. But before we get into what is new, let's take a look at the history of Angular. So prior to its release, a Google employee by the name of Misko Hevery was working on a side project. It was to help make building web applications easier for a couple of internal projects he was working on. This side project later became known as AngularJs. Angular because of the angles in HTML. It was eventually released as an open source project in 2010. In 2014 and 15, new advancements and standards in JavaScript emerged. The core team at Google knew that in order to keep up with demand, a huge rewrite and redesign needed to happen. Angular started to not meet the needs of developers anymore. The team had reached a limit to what they could do to improve on the framework for growing demands. When the core team at Google sought to deliver 2.0, they didn't want to be limited by their previous design of AngularJs. They wanted to build a framework from the ground up to solve difficult problems. They wanted to build large and cross-platform applications, so it meant a total rewrite. Businesses that used AngularJs were worried that the new version would break their current AngularJs applications in production. Developers and managers alike started to freak out. The complete rewrite meant a doomsday scenario for their current AngularJs projects running in production. Even worse, there was no clear migration strategy to port an AngularJs application to the new Angular 2.0. Teams jumped the gun on the beta version, and many were frustrated with the new concepts and breaking changes with every release. Frustration ensued. Things got better. Fast forward to 2018 and the Angular framework has reached several major releases in efforts to stabilize their framework. Some great tools like the Angular CLI have come out to make Angular development a much more enjoyable experience. Each release brought better build sizes, stable APIs, and overall better performance. Even with all the growing pains, Angular has remained a top framework for business, and this new version has been eagerly awaited by developers. The beta season for Angular 8 started in mid-January 2019, and the full release happened in May. Some of the features are new APIs for tapping into the CLI, generated code that is easier to read and debug at runtime, faster rebuild times, improved payload size, improved template type checking, and a faster application startup for modern browsers. And finally, more web standards. So let's take a closer look. Differential loading. Angular uses TypeScript, which is compiled and bundled into ES 2015. ES 2015 is often referred to as ES6, and it's the JavaScript syntax that is compatible with most browsers. When targeting older browsers, polyfills bridge the gap by providing functionality that doesn't exist in the older versions of JavaScript. Users with modern browsers shouldn't have to pay the price of increased bundle size that comes with polyfills they don't need. Angular 8 solves this problem by including differential loading by default. Differential loading is a strategy where the CLI builds two separate bundles as part of your deployed application. Angular performs a modern build, ES 2015, and a legacy build, ES5, of your application. When users load your application, they'll automatically get the bundle they need. With differential loading, applications generally can save 7 to 20% of their bundle size, depending on the amount of modern JavaScript features that they are taking advantage of. This strategy allows you to continue to build your web application to support multiple browsers, but only load the necessary code that the browser needs. Route configurations, dynamic imports. Lazy load by using the router. The Angular team recommends to lazily load parts of our applications by using the router, as it can dramatically reduce launch time by only loading the application modules that absolutely must be present when the app starts. This is accomplished by using the load children key in the route configuration. In version 8, it is no longer accustomed to Angular syntax, and it's now an industry standard instead. So it used to be a special syntax that was custom for Angular. And so as you can see, the old syntax and now the new syntax with the word import. And that means that now editors like VS Code and WebStorm can give us more support, since they can understand and validate the new imports. New builder APIs. ngBuild, ngTest, ngrun. You can try the latest Angular Fire, which adds a deploy command. And the commands are on the slide, as you can see. So building and deploying to Firebase is now made easier with the new deploy command. Using these commands will allow you to try the latest version of Angular Fire. Angular Fire is the official library for Firebase and Angular. Some of the features of Angular Fire are observable based. Uses the power of RxJS, Angular, and Firebase. Real-time bindings. That synchronizes data in real time. Authentication. It logs users in with a variety of providers. Offline data. Stores data offline automatically with Angular Firestore. Server-side rendering. It generates static HTML to boost perceived performance or create static sites. It's NGRX friendly. It can manage binary data, upload, download, and delete binary files like images or videos. It can call server code. It can push notifications, and it's modular. It includes only what's needed. So those are some of the features of Angular Fire. Workspace API. The Workspace API is asynchronous and has two main functions to facilitate reading, creation, and modifying a workspace. In the past, developers had to manually open and modify their angular.json file to make changes to their workspace configuration. But now there is a new Workspace API to make changes more easily. Web workers. You can now generate new web workers from the CLI. To add a worker to your project, you can run ng-generate web worker my-worker. Once you have a web worker, you can use it normally in your application, and the CLI will be able to bundle and code split it correctly. Web worker bundling lets you easily write code that moves expensive computation to a separate thread and have that bundled in a separate script that works in the browser. Web workers are a great way to speed up your application. The worker thread can perform tasks without interfering with the user interface. CLI telemetry. CLI telemetry is an opt-in feature that lets you report CLI usage data to the Angular team and also to your own Google Analytics account. This lets them make better decisions about which CLI features to prioritize and measure the impact of their improvements. AngularJs migration improvements. The Angular team wanted to provide support for all developers using AngularJS and help them upgrade to Angular. The team has now added support for location service when you upgrade. A new package, Angular/common/upgrade, is added. It allows the ability to retrieve the state from location service. It adds the ability to track all location changes. It will allow you to read hostname protocol port search properties, which were available in AngularJs, and mock platform location API was added to test the location service. You can now use SVG files as a template. Up until now, we only had the option to use inline HTML or external HTML as a template. There's a new deprecation guide available which outlines when features are to be deprecated and then removed, giving stability across major versions. For their public API, they are supporting features for 2 future major releases. Ivy, the new Angular engine. It has smaller bundles, faster compilations, better debugging, dynamic loading of module and components, and advanced concepts like higher order components. The Ivy and Bazel previews are available now, and they are looking for developers to opt in and give feedback. Ivy is expected to improve on reduced bundle size, better recompilation performance, better testing performance, and more debuggable instructions. Ivy is still in the experimental phase, and with the Angular 8 release, you can test it by creating an app with enable-ivy set to true, or in a new app as shown below. Remember, it's not yet fully functional. Bazel has been used internally at Google for a long time, but now it can be used by everyone. You can add Bazel support using the below command. Or you can create a new app with Bazel as well. Bazel is able to create faster build time. The first build will take a lot of time, but future builds will be a lot faster. Bazel can use incremental build. You will be able to build and deploy only what has changed rather than the entire app. Bazel will allow you to eject the Bazel files. They are hidden by default. There seems to be a lot of excitement surrounding this new release. I hope you have found this review helpful. So thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want to continue watching high-quality video content. Thank you.